Imagine standing on the porch of your dream beach house, the waves crashing softly in the distance, the salty breeze tangling your hair. That's where I was, Emily Parker, 32 years old, staring at my phone as it lit up with messages from my family. "We're packing our bags." My mom, Margaret, texted with a string of heart emojis. "Can't wait to see your new place," my dad, Thomas, chimed in. Then my sister, Sarah, sent a photo of her kids grinning ear to ear, captioned, "They miss their auntie so much." It was the kind of family group chat you dream of, warm, excited, connected. But here's the thing, for years, my family told me there was no room for me. Not at Thanksgiving, not at Christmas, not even for my 30th birthday. Yet now, because I'd bought a beach house in Sunset Cove, California, they were all begging to come stay. Funny how that works, isn't it? Let me paint you a picture of what I mean. Every holiday, I'd call home, hoping for an invitation, only to hear the same excuses. "The house is full, Emily," my mom would say, her voice apologetic but firm. "Sarah's family needs the space," my dad would add, as if I was an afterthought. I spent Thanksgivings alone in my tiny Chicago apartment, eating takeout and pretending it didn't hurt. Christmases were worse, scrolling through Sarah's social media, seeing my parents' house packed with relatives, laughter spilling out, while I was told it was too crowded for me. My bedroom, the one I grew up in, was always given to Sarah's kids or her in-laws. I was lucky to get an air mattress in the basement, if I was invited at all. But the second I posted a photo of my beach house, captioned "Home Sweet Home," their tune changed. Suddenly, everyone had time for me. Suddenly, they all wanted a piece of my new life. I sat there on that porch, my champagne growing warm, my heart pounding with a mix of anger and disbelief. These were the same people who forgot to call on my birthday, who left my college graduation early for Sarah's housewarming party. For years, I'd extended invitations, offered to pay for their flights, only to be brushed off with "it's not a good time." Now, they assumed they could just show up, suitcases in hand, and claim space in my home. The irony wasn't lost on me. After a lifetime of hearing "no room for you," they thought there'd be room for them. I took a deep breath, staring at the sunset over the Pacific, and made a decision. This time, I wasn't going to let them walk all over me. Before I tell you how I responded to their sudden interest, let's go back to where this all started, my childhood in Oregon, where I first learned what it felt like to be invisible in my own family. Let me take you back to where this all began, to a place that looked perfect from the outside but felt so different within. I'm Emily Parker, and I grew up in a cozy suburban home in Oregon, the kind with a white picket fence and a tire swing in the backyard. To neighbors, we were the ideal American family: Mom, Margaret, a beloved middle school teacher; Dad, Thomas, a charismatic insurance salesman; my younger sister, Sarah, and me. But inside those walls, the picture wasn't so rosy. From my earliest memories, I learned a painful truth: in my family, love and attention weren't shared equally. There was always a star, and it wasn't me. Sarah, 2 years younger, was the golden child. With her sparkling green eyes and infectious laugh, she was a mirror image of my dad, charming, outgoing, the kind of kid who lit up every room. She was a natural athlete, tearing up the soccer field by age 7 and later twirling as a cheerleader. My parents never missed a game, their cheers echoing across the field, their pride glowing like a spotlight. They'd spend hours framing her trophies, planning her victory parties, making sure everyone knew Sarah was special. And me? I was the quiet one, the odd piece in our family puzzle, with my brown hair and hazel eyes that didn't quite match anyone's. I loved books, not sports; science projects, not sleepovers. I wasn't loud or flashy, and in our house, that made me invisible. I remember being 9, bursting with pride after winning first place at the school science fair. My project on river ecosystems had taken weeks, late nights gluing charts, testing water samples, dreaming of showing my parents what I could do. I ran home, clutching my blue ribbon, only to find the living room buzzing with excitement. Sarah had scored her first soccer goal that morning. "Can you believe it, Emily?" my mom said, barely glancing at my ribbon. Sarah's goal was against the best team in the league. My dad ruffled Sarah's hair, promising her ice cream. My ribbon? It got a quick "that's nice, honey" and a magnet on the fridge, while Sarah's soccer photos were hung in polished frames above the fireplace. That moment taught me something: my wins didn't matter the way hers did. It wasn't just one day, it was a pattern woven into the fabric of our family. My mom once introduced us at a school event. "This is Sarah, our little athlete, and Emily, she reads a lot." That summed it up. Sarah was the performer, the one who demanded the stage. I was the shadow, my efforts fading into the background. I tried to bridge the gap, to earn their attention. At 10, I joined the school choir, thinking maybe singing would make them notice me. They came to one performance, clapping politely, but left early for Sarah's dance recital. "You understand, right?" my mom said, her voice soft but firm. "Sarah needs us there." I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat, perfecting the art of hiding my hurt. The differences weren't always loud or cruel, just subtle enough to make me question myself. My parents provided the basics: food, clothes, a warm bed. But emotionally, I was on my own. I'd lie awake at night, wondering what I was doing wrong, why I wasn't enough. Was I too quiet? Too boring? I poured myself into school, hoping straight A's or a perfect report card would finally make them see me. But even when I brought home awards, the response was the same: a distracted "good job" before the conversation turned back to Sarah's latest triumph. Her homecoming crown got a family dinner at the fanciest restaurant in town. My science Olympiad medal? A pat on the back and a "keep it up." There was one person who saw me, though: my grandmother, Clara. She lived an hour away in a little house filled with books and blooming plants. Every month, she'd visit, bringing me novels or science magazines she knew I'd love. "You have a brilliant mind, Emily," she'd say, her eyes twinkling. "Don't ever dim it for anyone." One afternoon, when I was 11, we were baking cookies in her cozy kitchen. I finally asked the question that haunted me: why don't they care about me like they do Sarah? Clara sighed, wiping flour from her hands. "Some kids demand attention, sweetheart. Others, like you, deserve it but don't ask for it. It's not fair, but it's not your fault." Her words were a lifeline, a reminder that I wasn't broken, even if my family couldn't see me clearly. Clara's love gave me strength, but it didn't erase the ache. By middle school, I realized academic success wouldn't win my parents' hearts. Still, I kept trying, joining the debate team, thinking maybe they'd show up to hear me speak. They came once, sat in the back, and slipped out halfway through because Sarah had a cheer competition across town. "We'll catch the next one," my dad promised. They never did. Each missed event, each overlooked achievement, built a quiet wall between us. I loved them, how could I not? They were my family. But I started to wonder if I'd ever find a place where I truly belonged. Looking back, those years shaped me in ways I didn't understand then. They taught me resilience, the kind that grows in the cracks of neglect. They pushed me to seek validation within myself, even if I didn't know it at the time. But they also left scars, doubts that lingered, questions about my worth that followed me into adulthood. As high school loomed, I set my sights on Stanford, a place far enough from Oregon to start fresh, but close enough to keep ties. I hoped distance might reset our family, that maybe absence would make their hearts grow fonder. Little did I know, leaving home wouldn't break the pattern, it would only make it clearer, setting the stage for a reckoning I never saw coming. By high school, I'd learned that no amount of good grades or science fair ribbons would ever make me the star in my parents' eyes. I was Emily Parker, the quiet, studious sister, always trailing behind Sarah's dazzling spotlight. Our home in suburban Oregon was a stage for her performances, cheerleading routines, soccer victories, homecoming crowns, while I was relegated to the wings, my efforts barely noticed. I kept trying, though, hoping one day they'd see me the way they saw her. But as the years passed, the pattern didn't just continue, it grew sharper, more deliberate, cutting deeper with every missed moment. The family I loved, the one I so desperately wanted to belong to, was teaching me a lesson I didn't want to learn: there was no room for me. Middle school had been tough, but high school was a different kind of battlefield. I threw myself into academics, maintaining a 4.0 GPA, joining the debate team, thinking maybe standing at a podium, arguing with conviction, would finally earn me a place in their hearts. I practiced for weeks, memorizing stats, perfecting my delivery. My first debate was a big one, against a rival school, and I invited my parents, hoping they'd see me shine. They showed up, sat in the back, and I felt a flicker of hope. But halfway through, they slipped out. Later, my mom called, her voice casual. "Sorry, honey, Sarah had a cheer competition across town. You understand, right?" I nodded into the phone, my throat tight, understanding nothing but the familiar sting of being overlooked. They never came to another debate. Sarah's competitions, though? They were sacred, every one marked on the family calendar in red ink. The pattern wasn't just about missed events, it was woven into every part of our lives. When college acceptance letters arrived, I was over the moon. Stanford, my dream school, offered me a partial scholarship, a ticket to a world where I could redefine myself. I ran downstairs to share the news, my heart racing. My dad glanced at the letter, his brow furrowed. "That's gonna be expensive, Emily," he said, handing it back. 2 weeks later, Sarah was named cheerleading captain, and the house erupted in celebration. My parents booked a private room at the fanciest restaurant in town, toasting her with sparkling cider. My Stanford acceptance? It got a brief mention at dinner, sandwiched between stories of Sarah's latest triumph. I smiled through it, hiding the ache, telling myself it didn't matter. But it did. It always did. Holidays were the worst. I'd always loved Thanksgiving, the smell of roasting turkey, the chatter around the table, the promise of family togetherness. But by high school, those memories soured. My junior year, I called to confirm my bus ticket home from a school trip, excited to share stories of my latest debate win. My mom's voice was hesitant. "Oh, Emily, we've got plans. Sarah's boyfriend and his parents are coming, and your grandparents, too. The house is full." I offered to sleep on the couch, my stomach twisting. "No, honey, the guest room's taken, and your room set up for Sarah's in-laws. Maybe Christmas?" I spent that Thanksgiving with a friend's family, forcing smiles while my heart broke. My own bedroom, the one I'd grown up in, wasn't mine anymore. Somehow, our 3-bedroom house could fit 7 people, but not me. Christmas was no better. That same year, I called again, hoping for a different answer. "We're keeping it small," my dad said. "Just us and Sarah's family at the Tahoe cabin." I pictured the cozy cabin, the fireplace glowing, the tree sparkling with ornaments I'd helped hang as a kid. "I could come for a day," I offered, my voice small. "It's tight, Emily. 2 bedrooms, you know." "Next time." I hung up, staring at my dorm room's bare walls, feeling like an outsider in my own family. Later, I opened Instagram and saw Sarah's post, a photo of the cabin packed with relatives, captioned, "Best Christmas ever." My parents were there, laughing, toasting marshmallows with Sarah's kids. I wasn't just excluded, I was erased. The excuses piled up, each one flimsier than the last. One year, it was renovations making the house too chaotic. Another, a water leak in my old room. Sometimes, they didn't even bother with details. "You're so busy with school," my mom would say, as if I'd chosen to stay away. Meanwhile, Sarah, who'd dropped out of community college to marry young, was gifted a starter home by my parents. A whole house, handed to her and her husband, while I worked multiple jobs to cover what my scholarship didn't. I'd lie awake in my dorm, replaying their words, wondering what I lacked that made me so easy to forget. There was one light in those dark years, my grandmother, Clara. She lived an hour away in a small house overflowing with plants and wisdom. Every visit, she'd pull me into a hug and say, "You're remarkable, Emily. Don't let anyone dim your spark." When I was 16, we sat in her kitchen, the smell of fresh-baked cookies filling the air. I finally let the question spill out, "Why am I the one they don't see?" Clara set down her mixing bowl, her eyes soft but serious. Some kids, like Sarah, demand the spotlight. Others, like you, deserve it but don't ask. It's not fair, sweetheart, but it's not your fault. You're enough, exactly as you are. Her words were a balm, soothing the raw edges of my hurt. They didn't fix the rejection, but they gave me a truth to hold on to. I wasn't unlovable. I was just invisible to a family that craved dazzle over depth. Clara's love kept me going, but the exclusions didn't stop. My senior year, I was accepted to Stanford, a dream I'd worked toward for years. The day I left for college, I stood in our driveway, my bags packed, my heart heavy with mixed emotions. My mom cried a little, my dad gave me an awkward pat on the shoulder, and Sarah, a sophomore, hugged me tightly. "Who's gonna help with my homework now?" she teased. But as we loaded the car, I heard my mom on the phone, already planning Sarah's sweet 16 party. I wouldn't be there for it, classes would be in full swing. Driving away, I glanced back at our house, a knot in my chest. I loved them, despite everything. But I was ready to find out who I could be without their shadow. Those years of being pushed aside didn't just hurt, they shaped me. They taught me to carry my pain quietly, to keep hoping for change even when it felt futile. But they also planted a seed of resilience, a determination to prove my worth, if not to them, then to myself. As I headed to Stanford, I carried Clara's words like a shield, not knowing that the family pattern wasn't done with me yet. It would follow me, growing bolder, until I was forced to face it head-on. Walking onto Stanford's campus was like stepping into a different universe, one where I, Emily Parker, wasn't just the invisible sister anymore. For the first time, I was surrounded by people who valued my mind, my ideas, my quiet determination, qualities that had always made me fade into the background at home in Oregon. Growing up, I'd perfected the art of swallowing disappointment, accepting that my achievements could never compete with my sister Sarah's sparkle. But at Stanford, I found a place where I could finally breathe, where I could start to build a life that wasn't defined by my family's indifference. Yet, even as I thrived, the old patterns followed me, a constant reminder that their love was reserved for someone else. College became my sanctuary, but it also sharpened the contrast between the life I was creating and the family that kept pushing me away. My freshman year was a revelation, a whirlwind of discovery that cracked open the shell I'd built around myself. I threw myself into environmental science, a field that felt like my calling, protecting the planet, solving problems bigger than my own. My professors saw potential in me, pushing me to think critically, to dream boldly. I'll never forget my first environmental studies class, sitting next to Mia, a biology major with a fierce passion for ocean conservation. After I spoke up about sustainable energy solutions, she turned to me, eyes wide. "Emily, you're so articulate. Have you ever considered specializing in this?" It was such a simple question, but it hit me like a thunderbolt. No one had ever suggested my interests could shape a career, a future. At home, my parents assumed I'd follow my mom's path as a teacher, a safe, predictable choice. Mia's words planted a seed, a belief that I could be more. Then there was Lily, my roommate from Seattle, a linguistics major with a sharp wit and a love for late-night debates. We'd stay up until dawn, sprawled on our dorm room floor, dissecting literature, environmental ethics, or our wildest dreams. Lily and Mia became my chosen family, the kind of friends who showed up, who cared. When I aced my first college-level chemistry exam, they insisted on celebrating, dragging me to a quirky ice cream shop near campus. "You destroyed that curve, Emily!" Mia cheered, her grin infectious. Lily raised her cone in a mock toast. "To our resident genius." I laughed, but inside, I was fighting tears. Not because of the ice cream, but because someone thought my success was worth shouting about. For the first time, I felt truly seen, not as Sarah's shadow, but as Emily, smart, capable, enough. That sense of belonging was everything, especially when home felt so far away. I called my parents every week, hoping to share my new world, to bridge the gap that had always existed. But the conversations were like stepping into a time warp. My mom, Margaret, would ask for a quick update on my classes, then pivot to Sarah's latest drama, her cheerleading routines, her new boyfriend, her packed social calendar. If my dad, Thomas, got on the phone, he'd fire off practical questions. Is your scholarship secure? Are you managing your budget? My stories about joining the environmental club or volunteering at a local conservation center barely got a nod. "That's nice, Emily," my mom would say, already distracted. It was like my life at Stanford was a footnote in their story, when they skimmed over to get to Sarah's chapter. Meanwhile, back in Oregon, Sarah's life was taking a different path. She'd struggled academically, dropping out of community college after a year. But her social charm carried her, and when she married her high school sweetheart at 20, my parents threw her a lavish wedding and gifted her a starter home. A whole house, paid for, while I was juggling part-time jobs to cover my dorm fees. When I heard about the house, I called home, hoping to share my latest project, a conservation study I'd led. My mom cut me off. "Oh, Emily, we're so busy with Sarah's move. Can we catch up later?" Later never came. The message was clear: Sarah's milestones were family events, mine were just noise. My graduation from Stanford was supposed to be different. I'd earned a degree in environmental science, magna cum laude, pouring my heart into research that landed me a spot in a prestigious conservation lab. I invited my parents, hoping they'd see the life I'd built. They drove down the morning of the ceremony, looking out of place in their formal clothes. I gave them a tour of campus, pointing out the lab where I'd spent countless hours. My mom nodded politely, checking her phone. My dad offered a gruff, "Looks impressive." But after the ceremony, they didn't stay. "We've got to get back for Sarah's housewarming tomorrow," my mom explained, already halfway to the car. "We're proud of you, Emily," my dad added, but the words felt hollow, like an afterthought. They didn't meet Lily or Mia, didn't see my apartment, didn't ask about my plans. I watched them drive away, my cap and gown still on, feeling like I'd failed some test I didn't understand. After graduation, I landed a job at a mid-sized environmental consulting firm in San Francisco. The pay was modest, but the work, assessing environmental impacts, protecting ecosystems, aligned with everything I valued. I moved into a small apartment with Lily, who'd taken a teaching job nearby. That first year was transformative. I was finally measuring my worth by my own standards, the quality of my work, the respect of my colleagues, the impact I was making. My supervisor, Diane, became a mentor, seeing potential I hadn't fully recognized. "You've got a rare mix of brains and heart, Emily," she told me during my first review. "I see you leading projects soon." Her confidence felt like a warm embrace, filling a void I'd carried for years. Then I met James, an architectural engineer I crossed paths with at a sustainable design conference. He was tall, with kind eyes and a laugh that made me feel at ease. We bonded over our shared love for green solutions, spending weekends hiking Marin's trails or debating urban planning over coffee. James came from a tight-knit family in Michigan, and the first time he invited me to their home for a holiday, I was floored. His mom, Susan, asked thoughtful questions about my work. His dad, James Sr., debated politics with me, genuinely curious about my views. His sister, Claire, teased him but welcomed me like an old friend. No one was sidelined or ignored. "Your family's amazing," I told James on the drive back. He shrugged. "They're just normal. And they love you, by the way." Normal. That word stuck with me, a glimpse of what family could be. But normal wasn't my reality. When James joined me for Easter in Oregon, I warned him about my family's dynamics. He was optimistic. "Maybe they'll step up with me there," he said. We arrived to a chaotic house, Sarah's SUV in the driveway, relatives spilling out. My mom barely paused her conversation to greet us. "Find space wherever," she said, waving us off. We were sent to the basement, an air mattress waiting among storage boxes. Upstairs, Sarah, her husband, and their kids took the bedrooms. At dinner, my parents fawned over Sarah's children, barely acknowledging us. When James mentioned our volunteer work, my mom nodded distractedly, then gushed about Sarah's son's new haircut. Driving back, James was quiet. "That wasn't okay, Emily," he finally said. "The way they treat you, it's not right." His words cracked something open, a truth I'd buried for too long. That moment with James was a turning point, but it was just the beginning. My life in San Francisco was blooming: promotions, friendships, purpose, but my family's indifference remained a constant ache. As my career pulled me toward California's coast, I had no idea that a single decision would force me to confront them in a way I never imagined. My career was pulling me toward new horizons, and in a twist of fate, it led me to the sun-soaked coast of California. I'm Emily Parker, and after years of feeling like an outsider in my own family, I was finally building a life that felt like mine. But nothing could have prepared me for what came next: a dream that became a reality, a home that symbolized my independence, and a family that showed their true colors when they thought they could claim a piece of it. This is the story of my beach house in Sunset Cove, the moment I took a stand, and the reckoning that changed everything. It started with an opportunity one couldn't ignore. My environmental consulting firm in San Francisco landed a major coastal restoration project in Sunset Cove, a charming community on California's Central Coast. My supervisor, Diane, saw me as the perfect fit to lead the field assessment team. "It's a 6-month assignment, Emily," she said, her voice brimming with confidence. "But there's potential for a permanent role if you're open to relocating." The idea of moving to a place where the ocean met the sky, where I could wake up to the sound of waves, felt like a dream. Professionally, it was a no-brainer: bigger projects, more responsibility, a chance to make a real impact. But personally, it was complicated. I'd been dating James for nearly 2 years, and we were starting to talk about a future together. His architectural firm was rooted in San Francisco, and a move could strain what we'd built. James, ever supportive, didn't hesitate. "You have to take it, Emily," he said, his eyes steady. "This is your moment." I worried about the distance: 6 months apart, relying on video calls and weekend visits, felt daunting. "We'll make it work," he promised, squeezing my hand. "It's only temporary." Deep down, we both knew environmental projects rarely stuck to neat timelines, but I couldn't pass up the chance. So, I packed my bags and headed south, carrying hope and a nagging fear that I was risking more than I realized. The first few months in Sunset Cove were exhilarating. The project was challenging, mapping critical habitats, proposing conservation plans, but it was work that set my soul on fire. I rented a small apartment near the beach, spending evenings walking the shore, the Pacific's vastness reminding me how big the world was beyond my family's small orbit. James visited once a month, and we explored together, strolling through quaint downtown shops, kayaking in the bay, laughing over fish tacos at beachside stands. I flew back to San Francisco when I could, but as the project grew, so did the strain. James's firm took on a massive sustainable housing development, demanding long hours. My fieldwork often took me to remote areas with spotty reception. Our nightly calls became shorter, sometimes skipped altogether. Weekend visits got postponed, then cancelled. 4 months in, we faced the truth over dinner at a Sunset Cove restaurant, the ocean glinting under moonlight. "I love you, Emily," James said, his voice heavy. "But this isn't working. We're both stretched too thin." I nodded, tears stinging my eyes. "And neither of us wants to ask the other to give up their career." It was an amicable breakup, but it shattered me. James had shown me what real support felt like, and losing him left me adrift in a city where I barely knew anyone. Sunset Cove's charm faded as loneliness crept in. I threw myself into work, pulling late nights, taking on extra tasks. The project was a success. Our team identified overlooked ecosystems, and my recommendations shaped the final plan. My supervisors were so impressed they offered me a permanent role as regional assessment director, a major promotion with a salary that changed everything. That offer was a turning point. Accepting it meant leaving San Francisco behind for good. I listed my share of the apartment I'd shared with Lily, shipped my belongings south, and signed a lease on a cozy place in Sunset Cove's historic district. The finality hit hard. I was starting over, alone. But through work and a local environmental volunteer group, I began to find my footing. I met Rachel, a spirited environmental attorney, and Diana, a soft-spoken botanist. They became my anchors, dragging me to happy hours, planning weekend hikes. Rachel was relentless. "You need to see more of California," she insisted one night over drinks. "Let's do a road trip to Big Sur." Those trips opened my eyes to the coast's quieter beauty, pristine beaches, small towns with soul. On one drive, I fell in love with Sunset Cove's untouched charm, its colorful cottages and wildflower-lined shores feeling like a place I could call home. Home. The word had always felt out of reach, tied to a family that never made space for me. But now, with my promotion and years of careful saving, owning a home felt possible. I started working with a local realtor, spending weekends viewing properties. Then, one Thursday night, I saw it, a listing for a 2-bedroom beach cottage, just blocks from the shore. Built in the 1960s, it had a screened porch, original hardwood floors, and a garden bursting with native plants. I drove over the next morning, rescheduling meetings to make it happen. The moment I stepped inside, I knew. This wasn't just a house, it was a sanctuary, a place where I could finally belong. Making an offer took every ounce of courage, not just financially but emotionally. This would be my place, chosen and paid for by me, a testament to the life I'd built despite my family's neglect. When my offer was accepted, I sat on the empty porch steps, tears streaming down my face, pride, relief, and a fierce sense of vindication. The closing took 6 weeks, and I spent my first night in the house with just an air mattress, a suitcase, and a bottle of champagne from Rachel. Sitting on the porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in pinks and oranges, I snapped a photo of my bare feet against the railing and posted it online with a simple caption, "Home Sweet Home." I didn't expect much reaction. My family had never cared about my career milestones or life updates. So when my phone started buzzing an hour later, I was stunned. My mom, Margaret, texted first. "What a gorgeous view, Emily. When did you buy a house? California looks perfect this time of year. Your dad and I could use a break from Oregon's rain. Can we visit soon?" Before I could process it, my dad chimed in. "Congrats, kiddo. Always wanted to fish the Pacific coast. Let me know when's good for a trip." Then Sarah's message rolled in, long and demanding. "Why didn't you tell us about the beach house? It's stunning. The kids are dying to visit. Emma's on spring break soon, and Tyler's obsessed with ocean animals. How many bedrooms? Got a pull-out couch?" The messages kept coming, Uncle Jeff asking about fishing spots, Aunt Laura curious about local attractions, even cousins I hadn't spoken to in years wanting to reconnect. I sat there, champagne forgotten, my heart pounding with disbelief. For years, I'd invited them to visit me in San Francisco, offered to pay for flights, planned birthdays they skipped. My 30th, I'd begged them to come, promising to show them my favorite spots. "It's not a good time," my mom had said. "Sarah needs help with the kids." Now, suddenly, they all had time, interest, and a burning desire to see California. The hypocrisy was staggering. After a lifetime of no room for you at their table, they assumed there'd be room for them in my home. Memories flooded back, Thanksgiving spent alone, Christmases scrolling through their happy family photos, my graduation they barely attended. My hand shook as I set the phone down, anger rising like a tide. I stepped outside, letting the ocean air calm my racing pulse. I called Rachel, spilling everything. "They're inviting themselves like it's nothing," I said, my voice breaking. "Like they haven't excluded me for years." Rachel listened, then asked, "What are you going to do?" I didn't know yet, but I knew I couldn't let this slide. The next day, I drove to San Francisco to see my therapist, Dr. Ellis, needing clarity before responding. "Your success challenges their narrative," she explained. "This beach house makes you visible in a way they can't ignore." We talked through my options, let them come and risk more hurt, shut them out completely, or set boundaries that protected me. By the end, I knew what I wanted, a relationship with my family, but not at the cost of my self-respect. Back in Sunset Cove, I drafted an email, pouring years of pain into every word. After countless revisions, I hit send at midnight. Dear Mom, Dad, Sarah, and family, it began. I'm grateful for your excitement about my new home, but we need to address something first. For years, I've been told there's no room for me at family gatherings. Thanksgiving 2014, my bedroom was given to Sarah's in-laws. Christmas 2015, you went to Tahoe without me. My 30th birthday, you declined my offer to fly you out. Last Christmas, you said it was small, but hosted dozens. This isn't one moment, it's a pattern that's left me feeling unwelcome. Now, because I have something you want, you're eager to visit. I've spent my life trying to earn your love, only to be shown I don't belong. So, you'll understand why I can't make room for you now. I want a healthier relationship, but it requires mutual respect. For now, I'm not ready for overnight guests. If you visit, I'd be open to dinner or a tour. With love, Emily. The next morning, silence. No replies. I drove back to Sunset Cove, unpacking boxes, trying to shake the fear that I'd gone too far. Then my phone rang, my mom, her voice sharp. How could you write something so hurtful, she demanded. We've never excluded you. I stayed calm. It's not one event, Mom. It's years. She deflected, guilt-tripping me about Sarah's tears, but I held firm. My dad called next, blunt. You're upsetting everyone, Emily. This isn't how we handle things. That's the problem, Dad, I said. We don't handle it. His silence was deafening. Sarah texted, accusing me of jealousy, of trying to tear the family apart. Some of us have real families to consider, she wrote, a jab at my single status. I didn't reply, not yet. Then came an unexpected call from Uncle Henry, my dad's brother. I've seen how they treat you, he said, his voice kind. The way they prioritize Sarah, dismiss you. It's not right, and it's not your imagination. Tears welled up at his words, the validation I'd craved for so long. You're like your grandfather, he added. Quiet strength, deep thinking. Your dad never got that. We talked for an hour, his support grounding me. I responded to Sarah later, calm but firm. I'm not asking for special treatment, just respect. The email, the calls, the confrontation, it was a line in the sand, a declaration that I was done being invisible. But what came next would test my resolve in ways I never expected. Sending that email to my family was like drawing a line in the sand, a declaration that I, Emily Parker, was done being invisible. Their reactions, from my mom's defensiveness to Sarah's accusations, showed me who they really were, but they also showed me something else, my own strength. I'd spent years chasing their approval, hoping for a seat at their table, only to be told there was no room. Now, in my beach house in Sunset Cove, California, I was building a life where I decided who belonged. This wasn't about shutting my family out, it was about opening the door to something better, a chosen family that saw me, valued me, and filled my home with the warmth I'd craved all along. What happened next proved that sometimes, the people we choose become our truest home. The weeks after that email were tense, a waiting game of silence and sporadic replies. My mom, Margaret, sent guilt-laced texts, hinting at how hurt she was. My dad, Thomas, called once, grumbling that I'd stirred up trouble. Sarah's messages swung between anger and denial, insisting I was jealous of her real family. I held my ground, responding with calm clarity, refusing to slip back into old patterns. But it wasn't easy. Part of me still ached for their love, for the family I'd always wanted. That's when I leaned on my anchors, Rachel and Diana, my friends from Sunset Cove, who reminded me that family isn't just blood. It's the people who show up, who choose you back. I decided to host my first Thanksgiving in the beach house, not for my biological family, those bridges were still under repair, but for the family I'd chosen. I invited Rachel and Diana, who drove up from their homes nearby, bringing wine and homemade pies. My neighbors, the Thompsons, joined with their teenage daughter, carrying a tray of local seafood. 2 colleagues from the conservation group arrived, their laughter filling the cottage as they set the table. My new boyfriend, Nathan, a marine biologist I'd met through the group, was there too, his easy smile grounding me. The house, once empty except for an air mattress and my dreams, was now alive with voices, stories, and the clink of glasses. We ate on the screened porch, the Gulf waters shimmering under a fiery sunset, the meal a feast of crab and shrimp sourced from local fishermen. No one was relegated to a basement or treated as an afterthought. Everyone pitched in. Rachel carved the fish, Diana passed plates, Nathan told stories of his seahorse research that had the Thompsons' daughter wide-eyed. The conversation flowed effortlessly, from conservation projects to favorite books, no one interrupting to shift the focus. It was the opposite of every holiday I'd spent with my biological family, where I'd been squeezed into corners, my voice drowned out by Sarah's kids or my parents' gossip. As we sat around the fire pit later, the stars bright overhead, Nathan raised his glass. "To a home where everyone belongs," he said, his eyes meeting mine. The words hit me like a wave, washing away years of feeling out of place. Rachel grinned, adding, "To chosen family, the ones who make life feel right." I blinked back tears, my heart full in a way I'd never known. Meanwhile, my biological family was slowly shifting. My parents started calling weekly, their questions about my work and home more genuine, though still hesitant. Sarah remained resistant, her texts laced with subtle digs about my dramatic boundaries. I didn't engage her barbs, keeping my responses kind but firm. Uncle Henry and his wife, Barbara, reached out often, their support a steady reminder that I wasn't alone. Even my grandmother Clara, now in her 80s, called to cheer me on. "About time you stood up, Emily," she said, her voice sharp with pride. "You've always been enough." Their words fortified me, proof that setting boundaries didn't mean losing everyone, just redefining who had a place in my life. That Thanksgiving was a turning point, a moment where I saw the life I'd built in vivid color. My beach house wasn't just a property, it was a symbol of my reclaimed worth, a space where I set the rules. The laughter on that porch, the warmth of those connections, showed me what family could be when it was built on mutual respect. My parents' small steps toward change gave me cautious hope, but I knew now that my happiness didn't depend on them. I'd found my people, my purpose, my home. As the holiday season faded, I looked toward the future, ready to protect this peace I'd fought so hard for, knowing the next chapter would bring new challenges and new strength. That Thanksgiving in my beach house changed everything, showing me what family could feel like when it's built on love and respect. But it also taught me a lesson I'll carry forever, one I want to share with you. I'm Emily Parker, and for years, I let my family's indifference define me. Every "no room for you," every missed holiday, made me question my worth. I'd lie awake, wondering why I wasn't enough, why they always chose Sarah over me. But standing in my Sunset Cove home, surrounded by friends who saw me for me, I realized something profound: my value doesn't come from their approval. It comes from within, from the life I've built, the boundaries I've set, and the courage to demand better. If you've ever felt invisible in your family, I see you. Maybe you've been told you're too much or not enough, or maybe you've been pushed aside for someone else's spotlight. Those moments hurt, but they don't get to decide who you are. You are enough, exactly as you are, and you deserve to be treated with respect. Setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's how you protect your peace. It's saying, "I matter, too." For me, it was that email, those hard conversations, that refusal to let my family walk over me. It was scary, but it freed me. You can start small, say no to a toxic gathering, speak up when you're overlooked, or surround yourself with people who lift you up. Your chosen family, the ones who celebrate your wins and hold space for your dreams, can be your greatest strength. This beach house is more than a home, it's a symbol of the space I've claimed in this world, where kindness and respect are non-negotiable. You deserve that space, too, whether it's a physical place or a corner of your heart. Don't let anyone make you feel small. Healing isn't easy, some days, I still wrestle with old doubts, but every step towards self-respect is worth it. So, I'm asking you, what boundaries have you set with your family? Have you ever had to stand up for your worth? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience could inspire someone else to take that first brave step. If this journey resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories that remind us we're stronger than we know. Thank you for being here. You deserve to be seen, valued, and loved. Never settle for less.